Oh, sure.
So here's the real reason this scene is funny, though.
Oh my God. Wait, you have the white Ford?
Yeah, white Ford.
Oh God. I knew it. My God, my dad's gonna be so pissed at me.
Commitment to character and emotion. This is Why Is That Funny? I'm Cal Hoffman, and we got 2 shorts and 1 full length by Ben Schwartz. Let's go!
PB, I'm gonna take another shot of your verse?
Yeah.
All right, ready? And we're recording, Johnny?
Hi.
Are we recording, Johnny?
Yes, we are.
Okay, just say, you don't have to, I'm never saying hello to you. Just say when you're playing record, okay? Are we recording, Johnny?
Hey, how you doing?
Come on. Just press record there, Johnny.
Gotcha.
All right, we're recording. Yep.
All right.
And again, I'm never saying hello to you. You're right next to me. I've seen you all day.
What's new?
You got it.
Simple. Why does it make you laugh? 2 things. Number 1, framing.
PB, I'm gonna take another shot of your verse?
Yeah.
All right, ready? And we're recording, Johnny?
Hi.
Are we recording, Johnny?
Yes, we are.
Okay, just say, you don't have to, I'm never saying hello to you. Just say when you're playing record, okay?
Biggest laugh there comes from not the hi, which is the unusual thing, but the I'm never saying hi to you. The framing. When Gil Ozeri, playing the sound engineer, says hi, Ben says back to him, I'm never saying hi to you. What he's actually saying to the audience is, did you notice that weird thing that Gil just did? I noticed it too. You can breathe a sigh of relief. And that is what the laughter is. It's a release of tension. But the framing has a second purpose. It says to you as the other improviser, hey, let's play with that. Or even if you didn't intentionally do that, making such a big deal out of it, that's my code for you to take that and run with it. Second reason it makes you laugh, game of the scene.
Are we recording, Johnny?
Hey, how you doing?
Come on.
Within seconds, they've repeated that pattern. We now expect it. So we're waiting for, is that same thing going to come up again? Usually we have 4 or 5 minutes to find our rhythm with that. They are going straight from one hit of that game to the next hit of that game. And you can bet within seconds...
Just press record there,
Gotcha.
Johnny. All right, we're recording. Yep.
All right.
And again, I'm never saying hello to you. You're right next to me. I've seen you all day.
What's new?
You got it.
They go back to it, and that's 3 hits of that one game, and that's it done. Clip 2.
We were spending the day there, and my dad said, I would hate for someone to break into the car and steal the bag, so let's valet the car.
Oh my God, he called it. Unless he planned this. Keep going.
So we valet the car for the day. We go spend the day at the mall. We come back to go get in the car to go to the airport, and there's a 16-year-old working the valet, and my dad goes and gives the ticket, and the guy at the valet goes, I knew it.
Oh, man.
And we were confused what that meant, and he said, another guy came in earlier and claimed the car.
Waiting for my car.
Oh, yeah,
Here's my
sure.
ticket.
Oh, sure. Oh my God. Wait, you have the white Ford?
Yeah, white Ford.
Oh God. I fucking knew it. My God, my dad's gonna be so pissed at me.
Sorry, I was the white Ford. I was just here like 2 hours ago. I dropped it off.
Somebody picked it up an hour ago.
That's impossible. I just gave you my ticket.
No, it's not impossible. The ticket's not the car. Someone...
So white Ford, the license plate is JFR.
Yeah.
2349.
Yeah, understand, but no, that's not it. I'm so sorry.
What happened to my car?
We talked to an hour ago. I don't have my ticket.
Oh God, I know that feeling. Which is your car?
That one?
I know that feeling?
Yeah.
You gave my car to somebody else because someone said they lost their ticket?
I work at the Mall of America. Have you seen the employee parking lot? I lose my car all the time.
Hi, gray Nissan?
Yeah. Oh my God.
This is Brandon Scott Jones and Kate Dippold, who came in for the assist move. And let's just first double check where the game of the scene got dropped and framed.
I'm so sorry.
What happened to my car?
We talked to an hour ago. I don't have my ticket.
Oh God, I know that feeling. Which is your car?
That one?
I know that feeling?
Yeah.
Yeah, really simple and clean. I know that feeling. I know that feeling. Literally repeating back the thing that the last person said is a great way of framing, but that actually came pretty late in the scene. I think Kate Dippold, she'd probably spotted that there was a bunch of really funny stuff happening, but it hadn't had a character motivation driven game attached to it, which makes a scene slightly more difficult to sustain. These are pro improvisers. They don't necessarily need that, but it's still really good practice and good instincts to want to insert that in there. So let's keep that in mind while we go back and analyze the other patterns that were in that scene and then come back to it and talk about its function in that scene.
There's a 16-year-old working the valet, and my dad goes and gives the ticket, and the guy at the valet goes, "Aw, fuck, I knew it."
So first, why are we talking to the audience? Trying to surface like standout ideas. What Ben Schwartz and Friends show does is ask questions like, what was the most memorable day that you've ever had? They're doing framing during that interview, saying, that thing? Is that true? Making a big moment so it sticks in the audience's brain. And then we have fuel for the next half an hour worth of scenes.
Waiting for my car.
Oh, yeah,
Here's my
sure.
ticket.
Oh,
So
sure.
here's the real reason this scene is funny though.
Oh my God. Wait, you have the white Ford?
Yeah, white Ford.
Oh God. I fucking knew it. Oh my God. My dad's gonna be so pissed at me.
Sorry.
We have commitment to character and emotion. I see so much great, smart improv, but all of the smarts in the world cannot outmatch emotion. Emotion is universal. References are specific to specific people, and they might get the biggest laugh for an individual person, but everyone knows what it's like to be that valet person freaking out. Add on top of that, we have a bit of camp going on. Exaggeration is a funny filter, a type of reason why things are funny, but at the core there, we have someone having a really true emotional reaction that they're then staying attached to. And that consistency and intensity are really important because comedy is contrast. That tension is only going to arise from the base reality being messed around with. So if your base reality involves someone being upset, but they're just stopping with the acting, they're stopping with the commitment, they fall into an uncanny valley. And suddenly we're living in a surreal place. The crazy scenario of I've given your car away loses its status as particularly unusual because just everything is unusual. But if we see two people, one of them has been starting off normal and then suddenly they're really over animated and upset, that is a big contrast from the baseline that we started at, but it's still a grounded one, so it's contrasting then from what we expect from reality. That is really reliably funny. Now there's comedic patterns in what they do.
Sorry, I was the white Ford. I was just here like 2 hours ago. I dropped it off.
Somebody picked it up an hour ago.
That's impossible. I just gave you my ticket.
No, it's not impossible. The ticket's not the car. Someone...
And why is that almost making him break? Because it's justification. You need some reason why your characters stay in the situation that they're in. Brandon's character can't just be crazy in the eyes of Ben's character, or else there'll be no reason for him to stay in the conversation. He'll just go off and call the police or whatever. But for him to have some degree of rationality, even if it's as tenuous as I gave away your car because the ticket's not the car, so it's like an argument about something different, but you're in the wrong in this one. That little drop of logic, little drop of justification brings it back down towards grounding. So again, we have that platform to contrast off of, and that contrast, it's funny. They do it again.
So white Ford, the license plate is JFR.
Yeah.
2349.
Yeah, understand, but no, that's not it.
Again, it's the license plate isn't the car. Now, that scene has been successful up to that point because they've got the commitment of the emotion and the just interesting character that Brandon is committed to. The game, the rhythm that they're playing is very thinky. The whole concept of this proof does not equal the car, and therefore your car is still stolen. That's conceptual. Again, concepts are specific. Emotion and character are universal. We can all relate to those. So next in comes Kate, and when you're working as an improv team, every scene is everyone's responsibility, including the people who aren't actively on stage.
I'm so sorry.
What happened to my car?
We talked to you an hour ago. I don't have my ticket.
Oh God, I know that feeling. Which is your car.
That one?
I know that feeling?
Yeah.
You gave my car to somebody else because someone said they lost their ticket?
Okay, now we have the reason, we have the emotional basis of that. This scene gets cut pretty much directly after this, and again, they're so experienced, they probably didn't really need this, but it's coming out of great improv instincts. If this was a more struggling scene, that move would have fixed it. What did she do? She tapped Ben on the shoulder, which is our international sign for get out, I'm replacing you, and gave the scene direction of we cut to when it happened. She didn't likely have a reason in her mind for why it happened, but it gives an opportunity for Brandon and her together to explore the character aspect of why, and the first thing that he said got us there. Ben did the right thing to jump back in at that point. If it went longer, that could go on for minutes. We could do a sketch show style format around that character now, with this motivation of, I know that feeling, and being a pushover, or maybe is always giving other people's stuff to other people because he feels bad for them, or gets fired from jobs all the time because he's emotionally incompetent.
You gave my car to somebody else because someone said they lost their ticket?
I work at the Mall of America. Have you seen the employee parking lot? I lose my car all the time.
Hi, gray Nissan.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And in comes Drew Tarver with a support move to bring us right back to the beginning. We had at least 3 potential games in that scene. We had the, oh my God, emotional reaction. We had the thing does not equal the car. We had the beginnings of the, I know that feeling, whatever that turned into. All of those are patterns. And it's so great to see, firstly, 4 people all taking equal responsibility for what is essentially a 2-person scene. And B, the ability to juggle all those patterns simultaneously. Final scene!
What did you do in the mega church, and what was it, if you're comfortable talking about it?
I was a children's pastor.
All right, well that's nice.
That's nice.
That has good intentions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Singing songs, trying to fit walnuts in a jar of rice, but the walnuts have to go in first.
Yeah.
Is that real?
Yeah. Did anybody else do that? Yeah.
Is that like related to the Lord?
Yep. Of course it's related to the Lord.
What does it have to do with the Lord? Yeah.
Hey guys, so I was thinking about trying out some a new song for worship
Oh, yeah.
today.
Oh,
Okay.
speak on it, Timothy.
Yeah, all right. Of course. Well, it's in the key of C.
Great.
And if you guys just want to follow me.
The key of C for Christ?
Yes, you know it. I would never touch anything in the key of D, and you know why.
David.
David was the worst disciple.
David was the worst disciple. It's okay. It's okay.
It's okay. Tim.
We love you.
Tim,
I can't get over what he did to the Lord.
Yeah, I know. That wasn't cool, David. That wasn't cool.
not
Bad,
cool.
David. That's
Okay,
not
guys,
cool,
so
David.
on the 3. 1, 2, 3. The river, it runs. The mountains, they grow. The grass is green and the trees are tall, and the Lord will send you to hell.
I love that.
What do we think?
I love it.
Wow.
What do we think? I know it's a short song.
No, it's good.
But do we think it had enough about the Lord in it?
Yeah.
I thought it was good, but maybe we got to start a little further away from the Lord. You know, like
Right.
start really far from
We
the
were
Lord
starting with-
and bring them to the Lord.
Right.
That's
I started
good
with too
idea.
many things that the Lord hath made.
Exactly.
Yeah, I actually have an idea. Do you mind if I throw one more?
Yes,
Stay a
absolutely.
little farther away from
What
the
key
Lord.
are we in?
We're going to be in the key of C, baby.
Great. And here we go.
Because I would never touch the key of F. Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Because of the Pharisees. That's right.
Oh, the Pharisees.
3. On
Pharisees. No, don't.
Don't. Oh, Peter. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Peter. It's okay. It happened a long time ago.
I did so much.
a while ago.
It was so long ago.
So long ago.
I think it's PH anyway.
It's PH. It's PH. All right.
All right. We got 2 confirmed games and a third that I'm going to make my prediction about now.
Well, it's in the key of C. Great. And if you guys just want to follow me.
The key of C for Christ?
Yes, you know it. I would never touch anything in the key of D, and you know why.
David.
David was the worst disciple.
David was the worst disciple.
Okay, first game. key of C for Christ, and a key that it's not going to be in, and a reason that is esoteric and probably incorrect for it. Sitting down in the middle, we have Colton Dunn, a known chaos agent, and while at most levels of improv, the best thing to do is to say the kind of group mind thing that you're pretty sure the other person is angling towards, and he's gone the opposite direction. It was obviously devil was the implication, but he's gone David. And that bit of mischief making is what forms the basis of this game that gets repeated. Key of C for Christ and not key of whatever because of whatever reason, and it's what makes Drew laugh. Which he then covers up.
It's okay, man.
okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
The team cover up together.
I can't get over what he did to the Lord. Yeah, I know.
And that becomes the basis of our second game. Side note, it's a super common thing actually. If somebody laughs around half of the time, hopefully, you'll see the other improvisers in the scene ask them why they're laughing, or if the laugher is able to pass it off as crying, why they're crying, and make it part of the reality. Because again, the more grounded, the more realistic, the less breaks from reality your actual scene has, then the more impact the one unusual break from reality does have when it makes you laugh. We then have them repeated.
Did you mind if I throw one of my
Yes,
Stay a little farther away
absolutely.
from
What key are we in?
We're going to be in the key of C. Baby.
Great. And here we go.
Because I would never touch the key of F.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Because
of the Pharisees.
That's right.
Oh, the Pharisees.
3.
Key of C, not the key of F, because of Pharisees, and it's even less of a, I don't know if that's intentional, but PH, it's not even F at all, but it's even more absurd, so we'd call it an heightening of the pattern. And then I think Ben's gonna cry.
On Pharisees.
No, don't.
Don't. Oh,
Don't.
oh,
Lovely.
Peter, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Peter. It's okay. It happened a long time ago.
They did so much to the Lord. It was so long ago.
So long ago.
I think it's PH anyway.
It's PH. It's PH. All right. You just tell us what you need.
And that gets us another hit of that same game. And again, emotion is funny. That is not a heady concept. The keys and the reasons why not, that's a heady concept. That's a thinky one. The biggest laugh, that's coming from the emotion. Here's my prediction. Game number 3. Drew's song started lovely and then was inappropriate. That's such a classic bait and switch. It is a joke structure. That's a basic structure of comedy. Your brain is creating a mental journey heading in one direction, and at the last second, we change it and say, no, this was actually the direction we were going in. Because we know that that is something that's happened already, we are now subliminally building up some tension, waiting for that to happen again. And if that is the unusual thing that's stretching out the balloon this time, then doing it a second time is like taking a pinprick to that balloon and letting it out. It's not being burst because of overinflation, just so many weird things, one thing after the other. Every time you give the audience what they're expecting, that lets that release out. Let's see if it happens again.
PH, I think we're okay. We're going to get farther away from the Lord to begin. Here we go on to 3. Yep. 1, 2, 3. I was shopping at my supermarket. I picked up some sweet old cheese. I went home to make a Sammy with God, and then God put his pee in me. Yo! Good. What do you think?
Peter?
What? Praise.
Praise.
Oh, that's good.
Okay, good.
Okay, I think
Maybe we want to
say praise. Let's
Yeah, we
say
might want to
praise.
say praise.
You might put his
People might get
praise in me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that too.
Yeah,
I like
that's
that.
good.
Yeah, I think everyone might get it confused.
Do you know what? Besides the praise thing, the other thing that's kind of bumping me is you go home and God's there to make a sandwich, but as we know, God is everywhere.
He always.
Right.
So
He's
he can't
omnipresent.
appear next to the sandwich. He's omnipresent. Do you mind if I take us away?
Absolutely. Yeah. And we should make the songs longer, right?
Yeah.
No? Yes?
Yeah, let's-
I don't mean to make you make
No,
it.
no. Let's.
You can go long? You don't have to.
No, I can go longer.
What key we working in?
Well, not D, not F. We already did C. Let's try the key of G.
Not the key of G?
Whoa, his
No.
father.
Oh my God.
The ultimate. The big OG.
Let's be in the key of G, but not the key of B.
Why not B?
Quick rewind. We're getting our same pattern of games.
What key we working in?
Well, not D, not F. We already did C. Let's try the key of G.
I think Ben thinks that Jess has forgotten the game here. The first 2 hits of that, both people have said C. Jess hasn't said that, it's gone in a different direction. The crying and the emotion, the big kind of released game is coming from the not letter. So when Jess says not C, and we're going to do G. I think Ben is doing a little bit of housekeeping just to make sure that that breakdown bit doesn't get lost.
Not the key of G? Whoa, his father. Oh my God.
The ultimate.
The big
OG.
Let's be in the key of G, but not the key of B.
And then we get
Why not B?
Because
Bethlehem. Bethlehem. Bethlehem.
there was just no room for him there.
No cries.
And I almost cried when we talked about David because it's the city of David, and then I thought about it again, and he had to sleep where the goats were.
Yeah, it's okay. It's a long time
It's
ago.
clear you know more about this religion than all of us.
Okay, we didn't get another inappropriate song, but it was pretty clear. I think if that scene kept going, it would have done it.
B.
Why not B?
Did you notice Bethlehem?
Because
Bethlehem. Bethlehem.
Didn't get the biggest laugh.
Bethlehem.
there was just no room for him
There was
there.
The justification got the biggest laugh. It all folds back on itself. If you give some logic, even tenuous logic, then that gives just enough grounding that the weirdness of the contrast of it being Bethlehem in the first place is allowed to be funny. Ben Schwartz and Friends, masters of game of the scene. What did you think? Did you learn anything? Did I miss something? Is there something else that I should react to? Leave a comment, become a subscriber, join the channel, and until next time, keep laughing.